There is a word you've been taught to fear, a word that feels heavy in your mouth, almost forbidden, a word that can change your life in an instant. That word is no. From childhood, you were trained to say yes. Yes, I'll do it. Yes, I'll behave. Yes, I'll agree. And every time you said yes against your will, something inside of you shrank. A small part of your essence, your truth, was silenced. Carl Jung once said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Your inability to say no is part of your shadow. It's the hidden part of you that longs for authenticity, but is silenced by fear. And every time you deny your no, your shadow grows heavier, darker, more suffocating. Because here is the truth. Saying no is not cruelty. Saying no is not selfishness. Saying no is authenticity. You see, society thrives on obedience. Families, schools, jobs, even relationships, they all push you into compliance. And the easiest way to secure obedience is to make you afraid of refusal. Think back to your childhood. When you refused, what happened? Punishment, guilt, shame, rejection. Your nervous system learned very quickly. Yes, Jack's safety. No, Jack's danger. And so, you adapted. You sacrificed authenticity for survival. Fast forward to today, you still live with that program. Every time someone asks you for something, your body feels the old reflex. If I say yes, I'll be safe. If I say no, I'll hurt them. If I say no, they'll leave me. This is the silent prison of yes. You smile, you agree, you comply. While inside, resentment builds. You give away your time, your energy, your boundaries, piece by piece, until nothing remains. And the tragedy? You call it kindness. You call it generosity. You call it love. But deep down you know the truth, it's fear. The real reason you can't say no is not because you're weak or because you don't care about yourself. It's because you're terrified of disappointing others. This fear runs so deep it overrides logic. You know you don't have time. You know it's not right for you. You know you're betraying yourself, but the thought of someone frowning at you, judging you, withdrawing their love, feels unbearable. And so you whisper yes even when your soul is screaming no. Imagine for a moment a life where you only say yes when you mean it. A life where your no is as natural as breathing. A life where you no longer carry the weight of false agreements, broken boundaries, silent resentments. That life begins with one decision: to reclaim the word no. To see it not as rejection, but as liberation. And this is where our journey begins, because the power of saying no is the power to finally say yes to yourself. Every yes you give has a cost. But because the cost is not immediate, you rarely notice it. At first it feels easier to comply, to go along, to avoid the conflict. But slowly, silently, each forced yes becomes a debt, and those debts accumulate. Think about the last time you said yes when you didn't want to. Maybe you agreed to help a friend even though you were exhausted. Maybe you accepted an extra task at work even though you had no time. Maybe you nodded politely in a conversation, pretending to agree just to avoid tension. What happened after? Did you feel light, free, proud? Or did you feel a knot in your stomach, resentment towards them and guilt towards yourself? That is the hidden tax of every false yes, resentment. And resentment is corrosive. It doesn't stay in one place. It seeps into your relationships, your mood, your self-image. You begin to see others as takers and yourself as a victim. But the truth, you weren't a victim. You were the one handing away your power, word after word, yes after yes. There is another cost, your sense of self. Every time you say yes to please others, you say no to yourself. And when that happens once, twice, 100 times, who are you really? Are you the person who lives your own truth? Or are you just a reflection of what others expect? Carl Jung warned about this danger. He said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Because to accept yourself completely, you must stop living for other people's approval. You must face the reality of your own desires, even when they displease others." But most people never reach that point. They dissolve their identity in the endless stream of other people's demands, until one day they look in the mirror, and they no longer know who is looking back. There's also the physical cost. Saying yes when you mean no triggers stress. Your nervous system releases cortisol. Your mind stays alert, restless, calculating how to fulfill the promise you didn't want to make. Your body tightens when yes is manageable. But hundreds of them? Over weeks, months, years? That is why you feel constantly tired. Not because life is inherently exhausting, but because you are carrying the burden of 1,000 unwanted yeses. Perhaps the most dangerous cost of all, manipulability, predators, emotional, social, professional, sense weakness. And the weakness they look for is the inability to say no. When you cannot refuse, you become a resource to exploit. Your kindness becomes their tool. Your guilt becomes their weapon. And slowly you realize your life is no longer yours. It belongs to everyone who knows how to pull your strings. So here is the truth. Every yes that is not authentic is a brick in the wall of your prison. The prison of exhaustion, the prison of resentment, the prison of self-betrayal, and the key to that prison is the word you fear the most. No, but before you can unlock the door, you must first understand why that word terrifies you and why it holds the power to set you free. Why is such a small word so terrifying? Why does saying no feel heavier than carrying a mountain? It's because no is tied to your deepest, most primal fears. Fears that were engraved in you long before you understood their weight. As a child, you didn't have much power. Your survival depended on acceptance. If your parents were pleased, you were fed, cared for, hugged. If they were displeased, punishment, silence, or cold withdrawal followed. Very quickly, your nervous system built an equation. Yes, love, safety, belonging. No rejection, danger, abandonment. This equation is still active inside you even now. That is why saying no doesn't just feel uncomfortable. It feels life-threatening. Humans are tribal beings. In ancient times, being excluded from the group often meant death. So we evolved with a deep terror of rejection. Even today, that old survival code still runs in your blood. When you say no and someone frowns, your brain reacts as if you've endangered your survival. Your heart races. Your body tightens. You want to fix it immediately? By turning your no into a yes. This is why no feels unbearable. It is not about the situation itself. It's about the ancient fear of being cast out. There is another fear, more subtle, more invisible. The fear of letting others down. When you say no, you imagine the disappointment in their eyes. You imagine their sigh, their judgment, their silent withdrawal of affection. And inside, a voice whispers, if I say no, I'm selfish. If I say no, I'll hurt them. If I say no, I'll lose them. This voice has guided you for years, making you carry responsibilities that were never yours. It convinces you that your worth depends on others' happiness, and that your no will break it all apart. Carl Jung spoke of the shadow, the parts of ourselves we repressed because society told us they were unacceptable. Aggression, selfishness, anger, refusal, all these often end up in the shadow. So when you try to say no, your shadow stirs. Shame rises. Guilt floods in. Because deep inside, you've been taught that refusal makes you a bad person. But Jung also said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Your inability to say no is not fate. It is conditioning. And it can be transformed. Here's the paradox. The fear of no is not about others. It is about you. When you say no, you are afraid not of their rejection, but of facing your own shadow. You are afraid of seeing yourself as selfish, cruel, unlovable. But in truth, no is not a rejection of them. It is an affirmation of you. So the next time you hesitate, trembling between yes and no, remember this. The fear you feel does not belong to the present moment. It is an echo from the past. Childhood wounds, ancient instincts, shadow whispers. And if you can breathe through that fear, if you can hold it, see it, and still choose no, you will take the first real step towards freedom. Because the word no is not an act of rejection. It is an act of courage. Something powerful happens the moment you realize that saying no is not about rejection. It's about alignment. No is not a wall. It is a door. A door that closes what is false and opens what is true. When you say no, you are not pushing people away. You are honoring your time, your values, your boundaries. Think of your life as a house. Every yes is an open door that lets someone in. But if you never close the door, if you never say no, anyone can walk in. They trample your space, use your resources, disturb your peace. Saying no is simply closing the door when it needs to be closed. It is not cruelty, it is care for your home, for your mind, for your soul. Here is the paradox. Every time you say no to what doesn't serve you, you create space for what truly matters. When you refuse draining obligations, you say yes to rest. When you decline toxic relationships, you say yes to healthy ones. When you stop agreeing out of guilt, you say yes to your integrity. No is not emptiness. It is the soil where authentic yes can grow. Carl Jung emphasized that wholeness is not achieved by suppressing parts of ourselves to please others, but by embracing our full truth, even the parts others dislike. Saying no is one of the purest expressions of that truth. It is a moment where you stop performing for the crowd and stand in your own essence. When you say yes against your will, you wear the mask, the persona. But when you dare to say no, you strip the mask away. You risk being misunderstood, but you also reclaim your authenticity. And authenticity, Jung said, is the foundation of individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are. For others, your no may feel unsettling, because they expect compliance. They expect you to bend, to explain, to justify. But when you stand firm, calm, clear, unapologetic, something shifts. They may resist at first. They may push back. But eventually they recognize it, respect, because deep down everyone knows that a person who can say no is a person who owns themselves. The greatest gift of no is not how others see you. It is how you begin to see yourself. When you realize you can say no without the world collapsing. When you discover that disappointment does not destroy you. When you feel the quiet strength of holding your ground. A door opens inside. A door to freedom, to self-respect, to authenticity. And you realize no is not the end of connection. No is the beginning of truth. If saying no is such a powerful act of freedom, why does it feel so heavy? Why does a single no sometimes carry more weight than 100 yeses? The answer lies in one word: guilt. From childhood, many of us were taught that obedience equals goodness. Say yes and you are rewarded. Say no and you risk punishment, rejection, or disapproval. Think of the little child who refuses to share a toy or doesn't want to hug a relative. Often the reaction is, don't be selfish, don't be rude, say yes. What lesson does the child learn? That their no's, their natural boundary is wrong. That love and acceptance depend on compliance. Fast forward to adulthood, and that conditioning still echoes. Every time you want to say no, you hear the inner voice of guilt whispering, if you refuse, they won't like you. You'll disappoint them. You'll be rejected. Guilt is deeply tied to the fear of being excluded from the group. For most of human history, rejection meant death. To survive, you needed the tribe. So your brain evolved to treat social disapproval as a real threat. That's why guilt feels so physical. Your chest tightens, your stomach knots. You feel an urgency to make it right, to smooth things over with a yes. But here's the truth, that fear is ancient. It belongs to a time when survival depended on approval. Today, saying no will not exile you to the wilderness, but your nervous system still reacts as if it could. It's important to distinguish between guilt and responsibility. Guilt says, I'm bad for saying no. Responsibility says, I can decline and still care about others. Guilt manipulates. It tells you that boundaries are cruelty. It makes you believe that your worth is tied to endless yeses. But responsibility is different. It allows you to refuse without hate, to decline without shame. It is the voice that says, my no does not make me a bad person. It makes me an honest one. Jung would say that guilt often hides in the shadow, the part of us we suppress. People-pleasing is a mask. It is a persona built on the belief, if I keep everyone happy, I'll be safe. But this mask comes at a cost. You sacrifice your own truth. The shadow side of people-pleasing is resentment. Because every time you say yes when you mean no, a silent anger grows. You betray yourself, and self-betrayal always leaves a wound. Here is the turning point. Not all guilt is real. Some guilt is simply the echo of old conditioning. The fact that you feel guilty does not mean you are guilty. It just means your nervous system is not yet used to freedom. With practice, you can learn to sit with the guilt, breathe through it, and let it pass. Like a muscle, your ability to hold your no without collapsing will grow stronger. And one day the guilt fades, and in its place you feel something new. Not shame, but pride. The pride of a person who belongs to themselves. We've uncovered why saying no feels so heavy. The conditioning, the fear of rejection, the guilt. But awareness alone isn't enough. You need tools. Concrete, repeatable strategies that make no a natural extension of your truth, not a battlefield. Here are some of the most powerful techniques to say no without guilt. The short and clear no. One of the most common traps is over-explaining. You want your no to sound reasonable. So you add words, excuses, justifications. But here's the problem. The more you explain, the more space you give the other person to argue. Your no becomes negotiable. Instead, keep it short. Hell simple, no I can't, or no that doesn't work for me. Direct, clear, final. You don't need to build a fortress of reasons. A no is complete in itself. The broken record technique. Sometimes people push back. They insist, they argue, they pressure. That's where the broken record comes in. You calmly repeat your no, using slightly different words if needed. Them. Come on, it's not that big of a deal. I understand, but my answer is no. Them. Just this once. Please, I hear you, but no anger. No justification. Just steady repetition. Over time, most people give up when they realize your no isn't moving. The pause before responding. People pleasers often say yes automatically. It's a reflex, a way to avoid tension. That's why one of the most powerful tools is the pause. When someone makes a request, don't rush. Take a breath. Say, let me think about it, or I'll get back to you. This pause gives you space to connect with your real answer. It prevents the automatic yes and gives you authority over your response. The boundary sandwich. Sometimes you want to say no without sounding cold. That's where the boundary sandwich comes in. It looks like this. Start with empathy. I understand this is important to you. Insert your no, but I can't commit to that. End with respect. I appreciate you thinking of me. Empathy softens the edge while your no remains firm. It's kindness without self-betrayal. Practice in small things. Saying no in big situations can feel overwhelming. So start small. Say no to the waiter when they push for dessert you don't want. Say no to a colleague who asks you to take a small task when you're already busy. Say no to yourself when you feel the urge to explain unnecessarily. Each small no builds the muscle of assertiveness. Soon, bigger no's won't feel as terrifying. Rewrite the story of no. The deepest change comes when you stop seeing no as rejection and start seeing it as alignment. Every no is not just a refusal. It is a yes to something else. Your time, your energy, your values, your sanity. When you say no to what drains you, you say yes to what nourishes you. And that shift transforms guilt into empowerment. The result when you master these techniques, something subtle but powerful happens. You no longer tremble at the thought of disappointing others. You no longer invent elaborate excuses. Your no becomes a natural expression of your truth, calm, firm, unshakable. And paradoxically, people begin to respect you more because they sense it. You are no longer negotiable. Your yes means yes, your no means no, and that clarity is magnetic. There's a paradox most people don't see. We think saying yes makes people like us, accept us, respect us, but the opposite is true. Respect doesn't come from pleasing. It comes from boundaries, and nothing communicates a boundary more clearly than a calm, unapologetic no. Why people respect boundaries? Think about it. Whom do you respect more? The person who always bends, always agrees, always gives in, or the one who knows what they stand for, who isn't afraid to decline, who values their own time and energy? Exactly. Humans instinctively respect those who protect their space. It signals strength, self-worth, and clarity. When you say no without guilt, you're sending a message. My time matters. My energy matters. My choices matter. And people hear that. No isn't just a word. It's a statement of sovereignty. When you refuse something, you're reminding others that you are not an object to be used, not a puppet to be controlled, not a tool to be picked up at will. You are a person with agency, and that quiet authority creates a ripple. Even those who are frustrated by your refusal can't help but feel a form of respect, because deep down everyone wishes they had that strength themselves. Respect through consistency. Here's the catch. Respect doesn't come from saying no once. It comes from consistency. If one day you're firm and the next day you cave under pressure, people learn not to take your boundaries seriously. But if you consistently protect your time, your values, your priorities, then your no becomes a symbol. People stop pushing. They know where the line is. Your no earns a reputation, and that reputation protects you. Now let's make a key distinction. Saying no can trigger two reactions: fear or respect. Fear comes when your no is harsh, aggressive, or dismissive. Respect comes when your no is calm, firm, and steady. The goal isn't to dominate others. It's not about saying no to prove power. It's about saying no because your inner truth demands it, and people can feel the difference. A fearful no pushes people away. A respectful no makes them draw closer, even if they don't like your decision. The mirror effect. Here's something fascinating. When you start respecting yourself enough to say no, others unconsciously mirror that respect back to you. The way you treat yourself sets the standard for how others treat you. If you're always apologizing, explaining, bending, people will believe you deserve to be treated that way. But if you stand tall, say no calmly, and hold your ground, people adjust. They rise to the level of your self-respect. No creates space for yes. Perhaps the greatest gift of no is the respect it creates for your yes. When you say yes to everything, your agreement loses value. People take it for granted. But when your no is firm, your yes becomes rare, precious, and deeply respected. Your yes means something, because people know you don't give it lightly. The transformation: at first, people may resist your no. They may push back, guilt trip you, even get angry. But over time, something shifts. They begin to understand you are not afraid of rejection. You are not dependent on their approval. You are someone who chooses freely. And that's when respect crystallizes. Not because you tried to earn it, but because you claimed it. Respect isn't given. It's commanded, silently, through boundaries. And every calm no is a declaration. I respect myself enough to protect my life. Every no you speak without guilt is more than a refusal. It's a rebirth. It's you tearing down the invisible walls built by fear, conditioning, and the desperate need for approval. It's you reclaiming the pen of your own story. Because in truth, saying no isn't about rejecting others. It's about accepting yourself. The freedom hidden in no. When you dare to say no, you discover something extraordinary. Freedom. Freedom to spend your time how you want. Freedom to pursue your passions without constant interruption. Freedom to choose relationships that nourish you instead of drain you. This freedom isn't loud or dramatic. It's quiet. It feels like breathing deeply after holding your breath for years. It feels like finally coming home to yourself. Carl Jung spoke of individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are. He warned that the greatest obstacle is the shadow, the parts of ourselves we repress to be accepted. Often our inability to say no is a shadow. We repress our anger, our limits, our desires. We hide them under a mask of compliance. But every time you say no authentically, you integrate a piece of that shadow. You stop pretending. You step closer to wholeness. No then becomes a spiritual act, a moment where you choose authenticity over performance, truth over image. From guilt to authenticity, at first guilt will rise like a storm. You'll hear the echoes. You're selfish. You're letting people down. They'll be upset with you, but here's the secret. Guilt is not a sign you're wrong. It's a sign you're breaking old chains. Over time, guilt fades, and in its place, authenticity blooms. You realize your no doesn't destroy love. It strengthens it. Because genuine love, genuine respect, genuine connection can only grow in truth, not in endless sacrifice. Once you embrace no, something radical changes in your relationships. You're no longer the one waiting for permission. You're no longer the one trying to explain, defend, or justify. You stand calm, clear, free, and people sense it. Even if they disagree with you, they treat you differently because you're no longer trapped in their hands. You're rooted in yourself. The courage of authentic living authentically isn't easy. It means some people will leave. Some won't understand. Some may even resent your no. But those who remain, those who respect your boundaries, who accept your truth, who don't need you to shrink to fit them, they are the ones worth keeping. Every no clears the space for those people. Every no removes noise and makes room for depth. So here's the choice before you. Keep saying yes, keep pleasing, keep living in the shadow of others' expectations. Or dare to say no, not harshly, not rebelliously, but authentically. Say no when your heart says no. Say no when your energy says no. Say no when your truth says no. And watch what happens. The power of saying no isn't in what you reject. It's in what you embrace. You embrace freedom. You embrace respect. You embrace authenticity. Because every no you speak is a yes to something greater. A yes to yourself. A yes to your truth. A yes to the life only you can live. So remember, no is not rejection. No is liberation.